Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So today's video we're going to be talking about Darkhawk and Sentinel. So I have quite frequently been asked which one do I prefer, which I think is better and why. So first off we're going to take a look at their damage output. So it's a rank 4 Sig 100 Darkhawk in this video. And we are using his specific synergies. One of them with either Night Rasher or Moon Knight allows Darkhawk to already start the fight in either of the three modes he has. So if we do not start in his shield mode, we're up to a good time. If we start in his shield mode, it's pretty much a wasted synergy, just because in that short amount of time there is no way we can possibly get to either of the other modes. However, his stealth and null mode, if we start in either of those, it's fantastic, because either we're going to be dealing a lot of damage or we're going to be able to attack opponents super aggressively. Now what you saw there was I got hit on purpose, because occasionally when you see, let's say if you're null or your stealth mode and you see that you're not going to be able to reach your desired special attack, you can just kind of get hit and get knocked down on purpose. That is going to activate your regen, and that is going to put you in shield mode, and then you can enter either of the two modes you desire and kind of like keep your loop going. Now, so a few things about Darkhawk. Obviously both Sentinel and Darkhawk both are robots, both are bleed and poison immune. And the way Darkhawk basically works is he works with his level 2s and level 3s, switching in between null and his stealth mode kind of thing. And that is more or less what you want to do. You have to be quite aggressive to keep these up. Once again, we use the same trick. We did not manage to get to our desired special in time, so I ate a heavy attack on purpose. And the good thing is, because his heal is kind of mitigating all the damage, and then we are healing even further by switching modes once again. So a super quick breakdown on Darkhawk. He basically has three modes: his shield mode, his stealth mode, his null mode. His shield mode activates whenever he's knocked down for 10 seconds, auto-blocking all incoming basic attacks, which is awesome. I think special attacks as well, but you can't do that with heavies. Then his stealth mode, which activates off level 2, basically makes sure opponent has a lot less defensive power gain and you have more offensive power gain, so it's kind of like your super aggressive state. And of level 3, your null mode basically gives you a lot more attack, a lot more extra damage via shock, and puts a long heal block on opponent. If you enter either of the modes while some other mode is active, you do trigger quite substantial heal for like 12%. And that is super helpful and super suicide friendly, just because you can kind of offset recoil. The annoying thing there is that recoil does trigger after your heal, so you will take that recoil afterwards. However, it's still super useful mechanic, which you can often use to your advantage, sometimes getting knocked down on purpose. But so we saw here 218 hits, rank 4 Darkhawk took down that Winter Soldier. Now let's compare it to our Sentinel. So I am using my 6-star Sentinel, just because my 5 stars maxed out. It wouldn't have been like a fair competition. However, 6 stars damage output is pretty much more or less comparable to a rank 4 5-star, as well as my 6-star is not duped, so that's a bit more annoying, kind of trying to build up Sentinel's analysis charges. Now Sentinel is a bit older champ, I'm sure most of you know how he works, but the base idea is ideally you want to build up your analysis charges to make sure he hits harder, he uses less power on his special attacks, he becomes a lot bulkier, and all sorts of good stuff happens. Also his debuffs last longer, whether it's his incinerates, his heavy attacks, or his his incinerates of level 2, or his shocks of heavy attack, or heal block from level 1 and armor breaks. So once we are at 100 charges, we basically just want to go ham on opponent and just want to deal as much damage. We are an absolute tank. Now we do have heal available to us, however, in order to trigger that, we need to shoot off 2 level 3 attacks, which in many cases isn't really all that practical, aside from like super long fights. But that also means that Darkhawk is much more suicide friendly if you manage to play him aggressive, because with Darkhawk, that was one of the key aspects. You needed to be super aggressive, you needed to constantly switch out the modes. You did not want any of the mode to expire before entering your next mode. And with Sentinel, you play completely opposite. You just basically need to do your initial ramp up, take your own pace. There is no race, you have nowhere to be, you just have to finish off the fight as careful as you can. And yeah, once again, so Darkhawk can be much more suicide friendly, so that's definitely a point in Darkhawk's corner already over there, because Sentinel does kind of suffer from recoil a lot, and if you want to access his utility, and that is a fairly big problem for the character if you are running suicides. However, sacrificing some of his utility, relying on your level 3s and heavy attacks, you can be extremely suicide friendly, you can heal up in a fight, but that's not kind of ideal. Sentinel is ideally meant to be played without suicides, even though he's double immune. But regardless, so as you can see here in Winter Soldier fight, 145 hits in, and Winter Soldier is nearly down. So we're clearly going to finish before Darkhawk's mark of 210 and something hits. So Sentinel can outdamage Darkhawk fairly easily. His annoying bit about Sentinel is that you do have to build up your analysis if you want to access your good damage, your tankiness, and everything else. So 169 hits. However, neither of these numbers are anything really all that impressive. As we're going to see here, even a 6-star Diablo can outdamage both of these guys. And that's a Diablo, guys. I don't know whether it speaks well for Diablo or bad for Sentinel and Darkhawk. But yeah, both of them lost their race to Diablo. I was thinking of making a video about Diablo, but honestly, I didn't want to make such a negative video, so I'm probably just gonna leave that off. I mean, he has some fun aspects to him, but I don't think if there's enough for me to make a video about. Anyways, back to Sentinel. So I did not mention that Sentinel's utilities lie in his heal block and armor break on his level 1s, which are pretty much guaranteed. Heal block is guaranteed and armor breaks have RNG chance, however you normally stack several of them. His huge incinerate of his level 2, and then he has extra armor on his level 3, which isn't like all that useful for most part. However, he also has a shock associated with his heavy attack, which is awesome. Easy access to damage over time debuffs, and also the fact that once he builds up his analysis charges, all of his debuffs, his shock, his incinerate, his armor breaks, heal block last longer, as well as he uses less power when it comes to actually shooting his special attacks, so you can spam much more special attacks more frequently. However, now we're going to take a look at some of the Act 6 fights. I'm not going to do too many fights just because I don't want this video to be super long. Also, just FYI, 163 hits, Diablo 6-star takes down Winter Soldier, which to be fair is much better than I expected, and it does outdamage Sentinel and Darkhawk. But right, back to the point, Darkhawk. So here we did get lucky and we started in our stealth mode, and that lets us gain more power while attacking, while opponents get a lot less power. And that meant that we do not really have to, for instance, worry about baiting out special attacks on stuff like no retreat node, which is awesome. However, the problem there is that it is not reliable. You start in any of the 3 random modes, and that kind of means it's RNG based. You have 1 in 3 shot basically to start in your shield mode, which does not help you pretty much whatsoever in your game plan. And that is one of the main things that I dislike about Darkhawk, is the fact that in order to kind of have a good start, aggressive start, you need to have synergy, and B, that synergy can still fail you. It has 2 out of 3 chance to kind of give you one of the good damage modes, and 1 out of 3 chance to give you the shield mode, which sort of sucks. And if you do not start the fight in your stealth mode or your null mode, fights typically last quite a bit longer and it's harder to access your heal as well. However, if everything does work out your way, Darkhawk is actually kind of solid questing champ. You have a fairly easily reliable heal that's always pretty much there, accessible to you. You deal a good amount of damage. You can have super aggressive start just because opponents are either not going to gain as much power as they normally would. I think it's 70% reduced defensive power gain, or you're just going to be dishing out a lot of damage from get-go. However, without synergies, Darkhawk does have a slow start, just like Sentinel. So the difference there is, though, that Sentinel can always build his analysis should you choose to do so. And I think that's one of the kind of main reasons why I prefer Sentinel. And there, I said it already, I do prefer Sentinel, just because Sentinel is much more reliable. You know what you're going to get into. You do not have to rely on opponent throwing their special attacks in order to kind of work against the clock, in order to kind of change your modes actively. Sentinel might be a bit more dull to play, but he's consistent. He can become a really huge tank. You always know what you're going to get with him. And for plenty of fights, you can simply choose not to build up your analysis at the beginning of the fight and just kind of build them up generically as the fight progresses, because each of the analysis charges do help him. Now let's weigh out pros and cons of Sentinel versus Darkhawk. Now pros in Darkhawk corner, number one definitely is the fact that Darkhawk is much more suicide friendly than Sentinel is, and that is a big thing. Number two, another big pro to Darkhawk that can be is the fact that he can have much more kind of aggressive start of the fight, and he can be better for short fights if he starts in stealth or null mode. If he starts in null mode, he deals a lot of damage from get-go, and that's always super useful. And if he starts in stealth mode, opponents hardly gain any power, and you can just bash at them, and you can actually reach your level 3 before they get to their level 1. But on the same side, now moving to cons, is the fact that Darkhawk does rely on synergy in order to be able to start the fight in any of the 3 random modes, and that is also one of the problems. Not just the fact that he needs that synergy to be active with either Moon Knight or with Night Thrasher, also the fact that you do not know which mode you're going to start in. If you start in shield mode, all your kind of aggression plans go out of the window, and you're going to have to start the fight slowly, as if you didn't have pretty much any synergy at all. So that is a big minus. There is that RNG element involved that is an inconsistency. Another big minus for Darkhawk is the fact that he does need high signature ability. Because the higher the signature ability, the more damage you will be able to deal, the more power you will gain in your stealth mode, so on and so forth. So yeah, his signature ability does matter, unlike Sentinels, who's pretty much fine and ready to go at Sig 1. Also, a big con on Darkhawk's corner is the fact that you're constantly going to be working against the clock. You will rely on AI to be responsive, on AI to throw special attacks aggressively, and not making any mistakes, because your entire fight is going to be in between balancing your modes, in between making sure you keep an eye on the timers, that none of them expire, because you do want to kind of stay aggressive in order to access that heal. Now, super quick cons of Sentinel is the fact that he's a lot less suicide friendly, as mentioned before, because a lot of his utility does come from using special attacks. Now, another con for Sentinel is the fact that every single start of the fight is going to be slow. Whether you choose to build up your analysis naturally, or whether you actually dedicate your initial part of the fight just building analysis, is going to take time, and it can kind of be annoying at times. However, once you are built up, or even if you aren't built up, his utility does shine over Darkhawk's, just because it's kind of guaranteed, it's always there. You do not have to race against the clock. Every level 1 is going to have that heal block, every level 1 is going to have some armor breaks associated with it, every level 2 will incinerate opponent, and it is going to be super helpful, and it is going to be reliable. Therefore, I, for one, definitely do believe Sentinel is superior of these 2 robots. 100%. Darkhawk might be more fun, but Sentinel is definitely the more useful one, in my opinion anyways. Also, when it comes to the looks, obviously Sentinel is no looker. He looks like an ugly piece of junk that's oversized for the screen and is occasionally awkward to play. However, Darkhawk on the other hand looks like cheap off-brand Power Rangers that has no business in MCOC. So if you're not into that kind of look, then maybe it doesn't matter too much to you. Anyways, I hope this video was useful to you guys, and I am going to see you soon. Don't forget, hit that like, share, subscribe button, all the great buttons. See you guys.